Thank you for joining us on Black Investments Matter. I'm Antoine Anderson. The hammer is hitting hardest in this one particular racial and gender group. 3 guesses who, and the first 2 don't count. The dubious distinction of being the most evicted racial group in this country is not a good feeling. It is made even worse when you realize that it's Black women who are facing most of these evictions by themselves. And why is that? Well, let's take a look at some of these reasons. The first reason we're going to talk about is the COVID effect. COVID affected Black women particularly because some of the jobs that were being done were in these areas where you have to interact with the public. That said, when people were forced to shutter for a couple of months, not go to work, those COVID vouchers being expired where you didn't have to pay. It wasn't saying that you didn't owe it, but we're going to give you some time to pay it. Well, the economy being what it is, many of the people who were out during those times never caught up, but those bills were still due. And when it came time to pay up, of course, you didn't have it. So that was number one. COVID is leading the reasons why you are being evicted. Number 2, many people won't like this, but it's the truth. 68% of the households within the African American community are headed by Black women, single Black women, meaning that you are the only breadwinner in that household. Now, whether you have kids or not, most of these households, we're talking about 2 or more children, and you are the sole breadwinner. It is just going to be harder to make ends meet when you have one person that everybody has to depend on. It was true in my generation when my single Black mother raised 3 boys. It is even worse now in 2023. The estimated number of households headed strictly and solely by Black women has reached 68%. That's a huge number. And it cannot be sustained anymore, especially when the rent for a 2-bedroom apartment in most areas of the country are at $2,000 or more. Meaning that if everything remains equal and you had $2,000 to pay that rent, you still have to feed your family, you have to clothe your family, you have to pay for the necessities such as lights and water. There's just not going to be a whole lot left, especially when the average income for African American women is around $45,000. $2,000 a month is $24,000. That is just not going to be enough to get by. So that's number 2. Number 3, the ownership of homes in this country has always been historically painted in racial tones. Home ownership in the African American community remains at an all-time low. It's just the facts. If you don't own the home or you don't have the protections you have to stave off a home, with a home, the foreclosure process itself is 3 months. As we found out with COVID, evictions is 30 days. And you and your stuff will be out on the street if you don't pay that rent. There's also Chapter 7 and Chapter 13 protections if you own a home. You don't get that kind of protection when you rent. There is equity in home ownership, meaning that the amount of money that home that you are paying a mortgage on is worth is essentially a line of credit. You are building generational wealth, a line of credit that you can tap on when someone gets sick, when someone needs to go to school, when you need to expand, when you need to buy a new car, when you need to buy another home or an investment property. That's the first step, is by getting some bricks around you. You can't beat it. It has always been a way to create generational wealth, a solid way, but even that is under attack right now because, well, let's face it, the interest rates of getting into a home right now has cost many of us out. Whether you make $100,000 a year or $10,000 a year, you are just as likely to be stuck where you're at in this economy. So those three reasons alone have definitely caused this problem. But I do want to speak on why it's so specifically geared towards Black women. What is happening in the Black community right now, especially if you look at a lot of the social media content, there is a literal war right now between Black men and Black women. We have taken the battle of the sexes to a place that I find sickening. As a divorced male myself, I don't hate my ex. We co-parent. We do what we have to do. I pay my child support. I stay in contact with my kids. You just have to do those things. But for so many young Black men and women who are dating, the whole thing is I don't know. It turns my stomach to see that at a time when you should be coming together, we are so far apart. So many dudes are out there trying to finesse women. So many women definitely trying to finesse men. And it's gotten to the point where people are expecting wife and husband benefits from just dating. That's not how this works. That's not how this works. And you some kind of a super simp if you are paying for somebody's rent, and that's not your wife, your baby's mom. I'm just gonna have to tell it like it is. And really, I don't care if you don't like that fact. If you are out here requiring a sponsor to make your bills meet, then you need to get your priorities together. And fellas, bruh, really? That's what the game is now? I like I said, I didn't want to get into this particular area because I know it's toxic. I would rather give you the information that you need to have to correct the problem. But as long as we are at each other's throats right now, we're going to face the same mess that we've always faced. Only this time, the divide and conquer is dividing our very households. And we are now being conquered as I just found out in my own locale, 12,000 more evictions just this month in the city of Atlanta. It's too late for a whole lot of people. And I hope this reaches you in the tone that it was trying to be delivered. As always, time is money. Not all of it is good. Watch how you spend that money. Leave your likes, leave your comments in the bottom, and leave the attitude away from here. Hopefully, I'll talk to you soon.